We have a question that is frequently asked. Why do you sit in front of unveiled women?
We believe that God created male and female. He created men and women. And He created these two sexes as being equal. We don't believe that men are inherently better than women. We believe that some men are better than some women, and we believe that some women are better than some men. And this is something which is proven in the narrations of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, and in the traditions of the prophets and the messengers. So for example, in the religion of Islam, and in particular Shia Islam, there are many narrations that state that Fatima az-Zahra alayhi salam had a rank or a place, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, that was higher than all of the Imams. There's traditions that state where the Imams say, we are the proof of God upon creation, and Fatima is a proof over us. Other narrations state that the Prophet Muhammad said that Fatima is the mother of her father, and that when he would enter into a room, he would bow to her out of, her glory. And other traditions state that actually her soul is higher than the soul of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I know that not all Muslims would agree on that, of course not, but it is present in the narrations. For example, one narration states that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if it wasn't for Ali, He wouldn't have created Muhammad. And if it wasn't for Fatima, He would not have created Muhammad or Ali. And so that is just a few examples of narrations that show the rank of women in religion. And we have also in the Christian traditions and narrations it being very visible and clear that Mary Magdalene had a special rank amongst the disciples or the apostles. She was actually one that was able to handle the most from Jesus. She was the one who was oftentimes painted as loving Jesus the most and being the closest to Him, and the one that was the most obedient to Him, and the one that had the most faith. And for that reason, she was the first to recognize Him after the events of the crucifixion and His reappearance to the disciples. And so, and in other narrations, apocryphal narrations that are outside of the Gospels that we know, it's stated explicitly clear that Jesus loved Mary more than He loved any of the other disciples. And Imam Ahmad al-Hassan alayhi salam, he taught us and he teaches us, and I teach and I taught that in our religion, which is the true religion, the restoration of all of the previous religions, that there were many women actually that came in history that were greater than the majority of the prophets and the messengers, even not just better than men alone, but better than even most of the prophets and the messengers. And some of these women are women that belong to a special group that we call the infallible women, or Nisa al-Masumat. And this group consists of women such as Fatima az-Zahra, Zainab alayhi salam, Mary, the mother of Christ, Asya alayhi salam, and even Eve is a member of this group of women that were better than most of the prophets and the messengers. We also believe that there was a lot of corruption and twisting that took place in the religious traditions and narrations and books. For example, one of the corruptions that occurred was the blame that was laid upon Eve in regards to the original sin. Most of the traditions, whether they're Jewish, Christian, or Islamic, they place the majority of the blame on Eve. It states that Eve was the one that was seduced by the serpent. Eve was the one who ate from the fruit from the tree, or she's the one who ate and then took the fruit and kind of convinced Adam to eat the fruit. For us, this is untrue. It's not the case. case. The person who actually ate the fruit, the one who was to blame for breaking the covenant or, committing that initial original sin was Adam. He's the one who was the first to eat from the tree, and we made that very clear in the Goal of the Wise. And so I think that sitting in front of a woman who is unveiled, and we've made episodes before on our channel, which we stated that we don't believe that the head veil is something which is obligatory. It's a sunnah, yes, something which was a practice of some of the prophets and the messengers, including the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it was not something that was obligatory, something that you have to do in the law or the jurisprudence of any prophet or messenger that has ever come. So I think that we respect very much so the headdress or the hijab or the veil. We believe that Fatima Zahra alayhi salam used to wear it. We believe that women have the right to choose whether or not to practice this sunnah or not to practice this sunnah. But we don't believe that men have the right to enforce it by force on any woman. And it's not something which is made obligatory, obviously, in our covenant either. I think that sitting in front of women that are unveiled and speaking with them, engaging with them, as I do with you in discussions about religion, is done not only because I have great respect for the mind of those women that are sitting across from me and speaking with me in matters of religion, and I think that they're worthy of sitting there, but I also believe that it serves a particular purpose. And that purpose is that I'm ingraining in the minds of the people that are watching us from the various traditions that women do have an important role to play in religion, that the Mehdi or the Qa'im does value his female companions very much so, and that we are setting an example for all men and women that are to come, that they should consider one another to be equals. And so that is why I sit with a lot of women in regards to the episodes that I film or in religion, and many of the prophets and messengers did the same thing. And there were many heroic instances of women, such as a woman named Nusayba bint Ka'b, who was one of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that she is not mentioned so often. Not a lot of people know about her, but in one of the battles, in the Battle of Uhud, for example, she had gone out with the Prophet Muhammad, and she was there to help nurse the wounded. And due to the large amounts of attacks that were sustained by the believers at the hands of the non-believers, and the lack of soldiers, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in one particular narration that during the Battle of Uhud, he could not look to his right or to his left, except that he would find Nusayba there fighting with the sword, killing the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and defending the Prophet Muhammad. And so why shouldn't we recognize women as having played important roles if they were the best disciples of Christ, if they were playing such important roles and were responsible for the very saving of the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, such as Nusayba. I think that we have to emphasize this much more. We got to lead a revolution, and it's time for men that correctly understand religion, as well as women, to stand up and reclaim back their role in religion that was taken away from them for a very long time. And I think it was hijacked by people that are sexist, people that have a particular agenda and want to control or use religion to control women. I think that there has been a lot of mixing that has taken place over the centuries between what is Islam and what is Arab Bedouin tradition or ancient Jewish tradition. These things have mixed with one another. And for example, I think that it's a well-known fact that in pre-Islamic times, in the times of the Jahiliyyah, the men that would have daughters, they would end up burying their daughters, and there's a reason behind that. And the reason behind that was because during the old Arab battles, when one Arab tribe would conquer another Arab tribe, one of the signs of it enforcing its dominance or establishing its dominance over a particular tribe that it invaded or a city that it invaded would be that the conquering army would rape the women of the army that's being conquered or the tribe that's being conquered. And so people did not want to have daughters, because if they had daughters and they were conquered, then their daughters would be raped, and this would be kind of seen as a sign of shame, right? And so the Arabs that did have daughters, they would make sure that they were hidden in a lot of cases, or they were oppressed, or they were considered to be something that is a source of shame. The male was much more prized than the female, and this is something that the Prophet Muhammad came to abolish and to change. And unfortunately, because of the Pakistani practices and because of the Arab practices that got fused with and mixed with the religion of Islam, people kind of attributed a lot of the sexism and the oppression of women that they've seen over the course of the past 1400 years with the religion of Islam, or with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. And so we have to lead a revolution. We got to separate between these things. We got to enlighten people to the true religion of God, and that's part of the duties that the Qa'im and his companions have come for.
Thank you so much, Father. As a woman, this answer is extremely important to me, and I really appreciate it.